In today's video, I want to share something with you that I read in a book about 10 years ago, and it completely changed the way I viewed money, and I think it completely transformed the way I viewed building wealth. And this is the biggest key, I think, for most people that stops them from building wealth is this one thing. And it's extremely simple. It's a book I read called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I will put a link in the description down below. But this one principle from that book, I'm telling you, completely changed my life, and I think will also change yours, at least as it pertains to your finances. So every single person has two statements in their life. Whether you keep track of them or not, you do. There's one that's called the income statement, and there's one called the balance sheet. So on the income statement, we have your income sources, and the biggest income source for most people is a salary. And then naturally, every person also has expenses. And then on the balance sheet side of the equation, we have assets and liabilities. So an asset is something that you own, and a liability is something that you owe. So what happens with most people is that they get out of school, high school, college, whatever it is, they start a job and they start to collect a salary or some kind of income source, right? So they've got their salary and they cover their basic expenses like food, shelter, whatever it is, and they've usually got some money left over. So there's a little bit of money left over, and so that money goes towards buying assets, right? So the assets that most people buy right off the bat, they go out and get themselves a house. And let's say they also go out and get a car. So if you take this to a bank and show them, they will say, yes, those are assets. Your house, your car, etc. are all assets. You could sell them, raise cash, they're assets in your name. The problem is that these assets actually come with expenses attached to them. So they're assets on your balance sheet, but they are actually driving expenses on your income statement. So when you buy a house, you're adding to your expenses because you have to pay a mortgage payment. And the bigger your house, the more expensive your house, the bigger your mortgage payment. Same thing with the car. The car feeds your expenses because now you also have a car payment. And then in a lot of cases, you also have credit card debt, payments like that. Those are obviously liabilities. I mean, I think everyone would know that a credit card is going to be in the liability column, but this also feeds the expenses. And so what happens is that this salary starts to get eaten away by people putting the excess money that they have into things that they think are assets, or maybe they're just buying, sometimes you just buy too much stuff, which is a lot of the times the case. But you put too much money into these things that you think are assets, and they're actually liabilities. They're draining your income. So this is the balance sheet of someone that is perpetually trapped in the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, continually buying more stuff that's leading to more expenses, that's leaving them financially strapped and unable to really get anywhere financially. So instead of thinking of your home and cars and things like that as assets, start thinking of those instead as liabilities. The bigger the cost of those things, the more expenses you're going to have, the less money that's going to be left over to buy real assets. And the real assets that wealthy people accumulate put money in their pockets. So let's revisit our income statement and assets. And when you start thinking like a person that's going to build future wealth, what you do is accumulate real assets. And how you know an asset is an asset is it puts money in your pocket. So for example, if you buy a real estate property that you're renting out to someone, that real estate is generating income. It's putting rent in your pocket. This could also be like owning a company. That could be owning stocks, dividend stocks, whatever it is. These companies are putting money in your pocket each and every year, typically paying a dividend or some way of sharing the income with you. As those companies make money, they pay dividends out to their owners, and that comes in the income column as well. You could also have a business. Maybe you write a book, or you start a software as a service, or you start some business, whatever it may be, some kind of system that generates money and puts it in your pocket. So all of these assets are feeding the income column, and also creating a bigger gap between your income and your expenses. Since you're not buying a big house, big car, etc., you're putting all your excess money into real assets. Those are then generating more income, which then leaves you more income between your income and your expenses, and this virtuous circle continues to flow. And eventually, the assets are producing so much income that they completely exceed your expenses. And once the assets that you have, you're not putting any time into these assets, like the rent still coming in, the dividends are still coming in from your stocks. If you start a business or have a SaaS or a book or something that you wrote, that's generating income for you while you sleep. So that income comes in and eventually covers your expenses entirely. And at that point, you are financially free. So that's the one thing I think you need to do to shift your mindset. Start accumulating assets. Start accumulating things that are putting income into your pocket, and stop accumulating things that are leading to expenses that are taking money out of your pocket. If you would like to get more content from me, I have a free newsletter which you can sign up for, the link in the description down below. In the newsletter, I review a new stock every week, and the idea of this is just to learn a little bit about different businesses, maybe expose you to different stock ideas, but more importantly, get you thinking about different businesses, different business models, how they work, how they make money, and maybe just learn something about what makes a good business and what makes a bad business. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up for free using the link in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.